Hey guys,
Hello, guys. How's everything?
pretty good, pretty good. How are things?
It's been slow, uh, but it's starting to catch up again, man.
Good. Cheers.
Cheers, bro.
Coffee time.
Yep. Oh,
Oh, there we go.
there you go.
Hey. Yep. That's a special ceramic magnet.
Mm-hmm.
So
So how you been? You seem busy, man.
yeah.
Just seem like everything's starting to
Getting
pick up for you, huh?
yeah, no, it's a great thing. It's a great thing. Getting more and more folks in Balintawak and showing them a lot of different things with the curriculum, but also just with the conditioning. Um,
Nice.
Getting their movements the way I think needs to be done for the system.
So you basically open up the Saturday classes too now, because
Saturdays and
before it was just
Sundays. Yep.
Sundays. Now it's both weekends.
Yeah, Saturdays and Sundays, and we're doing a seminar to go over fundamentals, a small seminar. It may be something that we do a few times a year to
Okay.
kind of get everyone up to the same page. So, and a good way to kind of introduce the art on a local level,
Mm-hmm.
So just kind
Mm-hmm.
of getting it out there, letting them know where we are, letting them know how we train a little bit. So, um,
Okay.
you know, adding some of the conditioning for Chinese martial arts also.
You're
So
combining what you know for the Chinese part.
not for the curriculum part, but yeah, for just adding things that I think really help with body awareness, body
Oh, okay,
mechanics.
okay.
And but still doing it, GM's way, GM
Mhm.
Bobby's way, but just you know, if someone has certain restrictions or if someone has certain trouble releasing power, just trying to get them to start to overcome those different obstacles and different sticking points.
So, question is, do you feel like Chinese, like because you come from a Chinese kung fu background,
hmm
right? Do you feel that it benefits Balintawak?
Nah, man, it's all chi blast. No, I think it benefits. But no, seriously, I think it benefits anything. I mean, it's and really, there's more of a there's more of a history of Chinese martial arts and Filipino martial arts mixing than I think a lot of us
Hold up, man.
realize.
When you said chi blast, right?
Yeah,
In Chinese martial arts defense, all the chi blasts you see, it's
hmm
usually Japanese martial arts. From what I noticed, I
it's a
don't see it in.
well, you see it in movies. You
Yeah.
do see it in movies, like in some of those like series that are written by Louis Cha, written by Jin Yong. They will have a character to like go like this, like that, and then
Yeah,
the other character
yeah,
will
yeah,
get hit.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's a part of like modern folklore or mythology,
Yeah,
however
I
you want
mean,
to see it, however you want to say it.
I see it in movies, but there's there's a lot of phonies out there that can actually show it. Do you believe in those?
I don't know. Like I mean, never say never, but it will break the laws of physics, as far as I understand. So unless I just see something that's overwhelmingly in that favor,
Yeah,
I have to not rely on believing in that.
right.
And there's so much out there with kung fu that you don't need to go in that direction anyway. Like there's so
Right.
much good stuff in there. Um, and it becomes a bit of a straw man. Like people who try to make fun of kung fu, they'll be like, "Oh, what are you gonna do? Talk about chi and hit me with your no hand knockout?" I'm like, no, no, we're gonna condition the body to be more connected, more relaxed. Being able to be more sensitive. So it's a lot of
Yeah.
things that are universal in martial arts, but you know, from my experience, from what I've found, I think Chinese martial arts have some of the best ways to develop that consistently.
Right. So, do you think like especially like clients or people that's potential to do the martial arts you do? Do
Mm-hmm.
you think they would appreciate that there's a Chinese element? Just I mean, I'm not saying your Balintawak is 100%
Mm-hmm.
Chinese influence,
Mm-hmm.
but it does have somewhat of that element in there,
Well, I
right?
think of it as more like using it to physically enhance what my students are capable of doing
Okay.
and what I'm capable of doing. Like,
Okay.
but like as far as like the techniques, as far as like the approach to the actual curriculum, that's purely from GM Bobby.
Mhm.
But as far as helping people get healthier, helping people improve their posture more consistently, helping people get stronger, that will be a lot from the Chinese martial arts
Okay.
that I do, and the internal arts. And the internal arts have their own applications. A lot of those combat methods are there. It's just not, when we're teaching Balintawak, we're teaching Balintawak. If I were to do a separate group where we're training like Shingi, for example, which is the Chinese martial arts that I focus on the most, it will be a different set of applications.
Yeah. If you guys don't know what Shingi is, watch the movie The One with Jet Li, and you'll see what it's like.
The closest distance between 2 points. Use a straight line.
Yeah. Boom. What do you think about the newer generation, the Gen Z? Do you like I'll tell you my experience from Gen Z based on my knowledge of my nephews, right?
Okay.
So they don't know anything about kung fu. They don't know anything. The only martial arts that they're familiar with is, of course, Muay Thai,
Okay.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, MMA, all the UFC, combatants, right? So it's funny because when I mentioned Kung Fu, the only thing they know of is Kung Fu Panda. Right?
Kung Fu Pan.
So,
Oh, that's great.
so I'm like,
Thank you, Jack
I was
Black.
like, why it's called Kung Fu Panda? Why it's Kung Fu? They thought Kung Fu was actually some kind of like Chinese yoga, not really.
Really?
Yeah. So I was
Oh,
like, no.
wow.
I was like, what about Bruce Lee? What about Jackie Chan? And their thing was like, who?
Mm-hmm.
That hurt my heart.
That does hurt a little bit. That does hurt a little bit.
But it's the new generation. It's like that's what I'm talking about. Kung Fu is to a point now where it's like, is it gonna be gone forever now? You know what I'm talking about, right? Because you don't see a lot of
Kung Fu as we knew it.
Yeah.
In the popular media.
You don't see schools. It's very rare to see schools. Actually, to find a kung fu school is rare now.
And real practitioners of Kung Fu are rare. Like
Yeah.
like people
Especially in the States.
Yeah,
right?
people would see a movie like The One and think, oh, that's Shingi or that's Bagua where he's walking in a circle, right? But as far as people who actually practice the art, it seems like as far as real numbers go, it's very rare. And I was lucky to meet up with to meet my instructor, my instructor Matt Staley over in North Carolina, and his teacher, Dr. Chang Yukai, is or Yukai Chang, if it's Americanized. It's he's a professor in exercise science, and he grew up in the university systems there where they specialize in martial arts,
Right.
in Taipei. So he trained in martial arts his whole life. He's still pretty young. He's like in his mid-40s. So he came here and he taught my teacher, and he still comes in and checks in. He'll do seminars every year or every couple of years.
Okay.
And he'll check in on the quality of his disciples. And so I was lucky enough to become one for my teacher. And so therefore, like for me, I carry the lineage of the systems that we do in that organization. And different people decide to specialize in different things. I asked my teacher if I could specialize in Shingi. He was cool with it.
Yeah.
And he was happy too, like, because he also loves it as well. And no, I love practicing it. And I feel like there's a lot of benefits health-wise. If you want to take it in the direction of combat development, that's there for you also.
Right. Okay. Where do you see Kung Fu nowadays?
I'm still trying to get over what you just told me about your nephews, so my mind isn't there yet.
Chinese yoga.
Chinese yoga. Actually, I have heard Bagua described as yoga on the feet, so they're not completely wrong.
Oh, damn.
Also, yoga has been used. I don't know if it was always called yoga, but the movements of yoga and the postures of yoga, the flow movements, it has been used by wrestlers and martial artists and throughout Indian history.
Yeah,
so it's kind of not wrong.
Some
It's a
of
little
the
sad, but
some of the stretches in Muay Thai is some of them's yoga positions.
it makes sense. I mean, you want to align your body in a stretch position. You want to open your hips up.
Like is it called the pigeon? The pigeon position?
Oh, I see them doing it while they're doing their dance, right?
Yeah.
What's that called? Ram Muay?
Yeah, Ram
Ram
Muay.
Muay? Yeah. Yeah, I see them. I see those guys too. I was like, oh wow, you guys are pretty flexible.
Yeah.
Then again, I guess to do a lot of the knees and the elbows, they got to be pretty mobile. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's what I think of it nowadays is, I don't know, and I may offend some people with this, but there's the number of people who are talkers versus the number of people who are real doers is pretty lopsided.
Yeah.
So it's and I'm not saying that, people who document, people who talk about the art, I'm not saying that they don't have a place. They definitely have a place, and they're very important. It's important to be able to document the information. It's important to be able to translate some of these texts, even within Chinese, right? Because it's written in a lot of the older classical style Chinese, so it might not always make sense.
Right.
And then spreading it, outside of the Eastern world, where people might not know the language, that's very important as well. And it's important to, interview these old masters, see what their knowledge, see what's, understand what they have to share. Because a lot of these guys are getting older too. They're in their 70s and their 80s, and we don't know how much longer we're going to have them. So that part is important.
Well,
But,
I mean,
yeah.
I think my question was, do you feel like it could be a decline?
I don't know.
Because Kung Fu at one point
Mhm.
in the early, in early 80s,
Yeah.
up to mid 90s were very popular.
Mm-hmm.
You see when I was at the time, I was in high school and elementary school, and I always hear kids, when I hear the majority of martial arts they're taking at that time was always karate, taekwondo, and kung fu.
Okay.
So nowadays, like, I don't hear that anymore. It's very rare to hear somebody says they do kung fu. So when they say that to me, I'm surprised.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess part of it's because of the reputation that Kung Fu has nowadays. And I guess the other part is, I wonder if it has also to do with the rise of UFC, but I don't know how much it has to do with the rise of UFC, because when Hoist Gracie was coming out there,
it plays a big part in it, though.
But it's like when Hoist Gracie came out, he wasn't choking out Kung Fu guys. He's choking out everybody. Boxers, kickboxers, taekwondo guys, karate guys. He was choking out everybody who wasn't BJJ.
But I think it's also media, man. Like, like the media outlet, especially like movies, right? Like, you don't see a lot of, if it's kung fu movies nowadays, is typically one of those like period piece type movies or fantasy.
Well, there is one exception. Paper Tigers.
Yeah, but you have to base it on that though. Like like that is, for one thing, that's a dope movie.
It was incredible.
That's a dope movie.
Like the guys who play the younger version of those three brothers, they did such a good job.
Yeah.
Like you could tell they were super talented and well trained.
Well, I mean, that's based on kung fu.
Yeah.
You see, but then let's just say, if it's a movie that has elements of kung fu, do you see that nowadays? Like Dune has Balintawak in it, right?
Dune has Balintawak.
So it's not about Balintawak, Like, do you, like, name a movie that has kung fu in it but then they don't talk about that as kung fu.
What about the Marvel movies?
Like what?
Whenever Captain America or Black Panther or any of those characters, when Thor even has a fight scene, like, because some of that be kung fu inspired, at least by the stunt people.
Could be, but then I feel like it's more tricking though.
Shang-Chi has.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, it has elements of it. You do see the Tai Chi part.
Yeah,
though.
you see the Tai Chi part. You see the bow staff. You see the archery.
But I mean, again, that's like fantasy though.
It is fantasy, yeah. It's so Marvel. But I mean, it is popular though. A lot of people saw it. So.
Yeah.
Maybe TV shows. Like, what are some popular Netflix TV shows nowadays that might have kung fu in it? Without explicitly stating that it's kung fu.
I have no idea.
New ones. I mean, I guess nowadays you see a lot more shows from Asia that have like kung fu wuxia stuff in it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of there. But now they rely a lot on special effects. Like, I don't know how much the stunt people's abilities matter as much.
That's what I'm saying. Like the media outlet will be one of the sources to influence people about the art. After, of course, UFC, when they dominated, of course, that's one of the reasons why, but it's also the media, man. Media kind of downplay Kung Fu a lot. And that's why you kind of see like it slowly becoming not popular anymore.
Although I will name another show that features it.
What?
Warrior.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
And very clearly as Kung Fu because it's about Chinatown.
It's Kung Fu, but it's a blend though. That's
in actuality, but that's not what the show is presenting. The show clearly when they show Joe Taslim.
They don't talk about the Kung Fu. So
but they do show him doing what's supposed to be Kung Fu, right?
Okay.
But they don't necessarily talk about it. But he's doing WuShu in the hallway, in the training hall. He's doing like that dynamic tension movements in front of the pool. So he's very clearly doing what's meant to be seen as Kung Fu, right?
Okay.
And then you got Andrew Koji hitting the Makjong, the wind dummy. So they're definitely doing Kung Fu. I got to credit. A lot of credit goes to Shannon Lee for that, for trying to continue her dad's name in the modern day. Yeah. So hopefully people like your nephew and his friends will see it as more than just Chinese yoga.
Yeah, right?
But, it's interesting to think about that, too, because, like, Dragon the Bruce Lee story, right? Remember that movie?
With Jason Scott Lee?
Yeah, Jason Scott Lee. That came out, like, 20 years after Bruce Lee died.
Uh-huh.
And 20 years ago from today was, like, 2004.
Uh-huh.
So it wasn't really that long ago to us, right?
What do you think of that movie? You think does it still hold its place?
I don't know. To me, it does, but I don't know how it would
I still
look
feel
to
it's
like
good.
a 20-year-old. I enjoy it.
Yeah,
I still enjoy it. He has like so many fun moments in that movie. I'll beat any man in this room in 60 seconds.
Yeah,
but it was Jason Scott Lee did a good job, especially considering he didn't have much of a background at the time.
Yeah.
But credited him for sticking with it, man. Like he's like in his 50s and still in pretty good shape.
Yeah. Wow. It was crazy. It's crazy. At first I was a little bit weirded out by it because I didn't see him as Bruce Lee, but then when I saw it, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, some of the parts you could definitely see were like played up for embellishment of the truth, shall we say, right?
Yeah.
But I think like the emotional journey that it takes you on as you see him, grow up in Hong Kong a little bit, and he comes to the U.S., he meets his wife, he starts to establish himself as Bruce Lee that we know him today. I think that combined with the soundtrack is freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Like the soundtrack somehow is able to just kind of carry you emotionally throughout that thing. So it's good. It's good on like a interesting psychological and heartfelt level, because the martial arts itself is kind of like but somehow is able to just absorb you in and pull you in and keep you in there.
Why? Speaking of that, but why? As a kung fu practitioner yourself, why do you see that? Why are people disrespecting kung fu? I'll say it like that because I see it. I see people nowadays, they look down on kung fu.
I think there are a lot of legitimate frauds out there. That is one. But
then that's what every martial arts.
Yeah, and I think also for some reason is very tempting for people to stereotype people who do kung fu. I think part of it might be, racism towards Chinese folks.
Okay.
Right? I think that's always, whether it's conscious or subconscious, right? I think that's always going to play a bit of a factor.
Yeah.
And you don't see as many kung fu folks being represented in combat sports in the West. And actually, Joe Louis even said it back in the day. He said, and he said it kind of matter-of-factly. I don't think he meant anything by it other than what he observed. He said that, the karate guys, the Muay Thai guys, they're all about the combat sports. They're all about, sparring and everything else. And he said the kung fu guys tend to not be like that.
I kind of agree with that to somewhat point, yeah.
Yeah, so there are folks out there who are doing some pretty good work with it, like my boy Matthew Lee. Matthew's always commenting on our channel.
Yeah,
so,
Matthew,
yeah,
thank you, man.
Appreciate
it, bro.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah.
And some other younger guys who are trying to make some headways. Vincent Zhang trying to show different ways that Chinese martial arts can be applicable. My instructor too, and in promoting not just Shingi but also Bagua, Tai Chi, Northern Shaolin, some of the other systems that we're a part of as well.
Right.
But there's not too many as far as those trying to present it either in an applicable way for self-defense or in a way that's very that might be translatable to combat sports. But there are some UFC guys or current UFC guys like Michael Venom Page, right?
Oh yeah.
And
he comes from a family, like his family did taught kung fu, or they just.
He said his mother taught him.
Okay.
Said his mother apparently still coaches him, or at least in his early early MMA career, She did.
What kind of kung fu did they?
It's like Laogar or something.
Laogar?
Yeah, it sounded like a Southern system when I read about it. And we're as of the time of this discussion, he hasn't fought Ian Gary yet. So by the time this comes out, he would have fought him. So
is that tonight? Actually, who is he fighting tonight?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's fighting Ian Gary. Ian Gary is pretty good too. I guess I won't make a prediction because by the time everyone else sees this, the fight would have already happened.
Yeah.
So
it's okay to make prediction. It's not like
it's gonna knock him out. I'll say this: as of the time of this, but by the time you guys see it, the result will already have happened. So, Michael Venom Page knocked out Ian Gary a few days ago. So, somehow they would just look back.
I'll just write if he loses. I'll just write in the battle like it was honest mistake.
yeah. Play in the background. Wah wah wah.
Wow. Yeah. The reason why I bring it up is that I'm very biased. No, I'm not even. Sorry, I'm not biased, but I respect all martial arts. But it's just that what I see these days is, the Chinese martial arts again looked down upon.
And I guess also my viewpoint's different because I have met a lot of people who are able to use it in sparring, use it combatively. And you get on over to the West Coast, my buddy Hui, he has his own Wing Chun school out there, and his Sifu Austin is amazing, right? And they're able to demonstrate, they're able to spar with it, and seeing other kung fu systems out there as well. Like different traditional classical kung fu systems.
Yeah, I told you, my friend Keith Min. He was a stunt guy before as well, and when we did a video together, at first I didn't believe in his art, but when he demonstrated and he showed me how powerful it is, and I was just like, damn, I could not imagine it'll be like this.
It's one of those things. It's probably one of those things where it's like maybe he could beat someone like that in sparring, but if he cracks you one time, it's like, oh man, you're done. Right?
Definitely, if he lands you with a hit, nah, man, I couldn't. I let him hit my chest. I couldn't take it.
Was he pulling the shot?
It's a fight scene, and he hits for real, man. And
shit!
He was pulling.
Right.
But he was pulling. But
not out, just pulling.
Yeah, he was pulling, but you still feel it. Pause. You see what I'm saying? You can feel the power. Pause again, but it's just.
Well, Shingi has 5 elements, so you can feel the split, you can feel the drill, you can feel the crush. Pause. But that's cool, man. That's really great to hear.
Yeah,
I watched that video too. I actually watched that video way before I knew you.
Right. That's crazy that you watched that video. That.
I guess it got out there because I guess also there weren't too many videos actually showing the application of Shingi at the time.
Yeah.
And it was gritty. I guess that's what you guys were going for. Right? It felt super urban, gritty.
That's what he wanted at the time because I think he was trying to teach.
Right.
And he needed a video to showcase So that because he knew that media would be the platform for it.
Yeah, how'd you link up with that guy? Like, how'd you end up finding out about Shingi? Did you know about Shingi before that?
Yeah,
Okay.
Bruce Lee's the one. I know Jet Li's the one.
Oh, that was before you met
Yeah.
Keith. Okay.
I knew about Keith because of mutual friends that are stunt guys in Chicago. And
Oh, that's a big scene there. Yeah.
yeah,
I know
so
that, yeah.
they're the same people that that taught Brian Sawyer.
Right, yeah.
So one day he Keith Min was friends with John Truey. You know who John Truey is,
Yeah,
right?
I know John. Yeah.
So
What's up, John?
Yeah.
If you're watching this.
John Truey is he's a very established filmmaker.
Okay.
So I think he invited Keith to come to New York so he can make a video for him.
Oh, okay.
For his journey into that system. And I think he's on that level where he can teach. And so he knew that
John or Keith?
Keith.
Okay.
So Keith he knew that the media platform would be a place for it,
right,
to showcase his ability, you know?
Okay.
Because again, it's kind of like you need that, you know, that visual, you know, stimulant before you want to do, like, for example, like,
sure,
people saw Yip Man, because of Yip Man, they want to do Wing Chun now,
yeah.
right?
They saw Born Identity, so people want to do FMA.
Yeah. So he figured that will be the thing to showcase that art, and he believed that not a lot of people know that art or even heard of it. So he wanted to display it in a way that way he can like make it more popular.
I see.
So he came to New York and he asked John Truey to find stunt guys, and John Truey contacted me, and that's how it happened. And at first I didn't know anything about it. I only heard it from, of course, the one. So we all kind of curious because all the stunt guys are all martial artists too.
Okay.
So, but then when he started demonstrating, we kind of like was testing him a bit.
Right.
Dude, no, I believe in him that day.
Yeah.
How he can generate that type of power, how he can shift energy is weird, but from that day on, I was a believer. You know.
Let me see. I think we need more of that because that's how I was made to believe in Chinese martial arts as well. Like I had people demonstrate it on me, and I had people. I was able to ask questions. What would you do if I did this? What would you do if I did this? How could we spar potentially with it? Right, and they were able to answer the questions that I wanted. Bro.
It's rare.
It's rare.
I wish there was a lot more people doing it.
Yeah,
but it's rare to hear.
Yeah. So we would need more kung fu people like doing these things in different ways to show the efficacy of the art from a combative standpoint, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's being to explain the concept, demonstrate the concepts and the applications, or going into the ring or the cage and sparring with it.
But why is it so rare though? Like, why there's so not that many kung fu practitioners that will compete? I mean, I hear it all the time. Oh, this art is not for sports. Oh, this and that. It's kind of like, well, I understand, but at the same time,
I think if you train it well enough, it should be adaptable to sport.
Right.
I know some friends who would train in Choi foot, and they would just show up to tournaments, and spar with what they had,
Yeah.
So it can be definitely developed in a way that should be applicable to different systems. Like maybe you need to adjust your strategy a little bit based off of the rule set, but you should be able to go in there and hold your own if you train properly.
Do you think it's because they're trying to keep it very traditional and not lose that?
I don't think it's necessarily keeping traditional, at least
because
not to me.
Because certain martial arts, like especially like karate, and some Muay Thai, they lose the old tradition to keep it more modern. You know what I'm talking about? Same thing with Filipino martial arts, right? Back then they didn't have disarms with gun disarms until now.
But you should still be learning how to give impact. You should be learning how to give impact to receive impact. You should you still
basically
be training
like
your reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should be still training to train your reaction, train your sensitivity, train your awareness. It's just maybe now you got to do it with boxing gloves, like maybe now you got to do it in a setting where you can't, like, kick a guy straight in the knee. But all right, adjust it to you kick him in the body, right? But that shouldn't, to me, keeping with tradition should not be a reason given for why something might not have combative efficacy. If anything, combat is the tradition, right? Like a lot of Kung Fu systems evolved in very violent times throughout the history of China, throughout the history of other parts of the world also. And that goes for different martial arts. I mean, that's not unique to Kung Fu. But they evolved in violent times, and then during times where maybe society is a little stable, you can maybe turn into a sport, organize systems around it, and research more into the methods. All right, what's the best way to train this attribute, or what's the best way to develop a lot of good Kung Fu people?
But if you turn it into a sport, then it's not traditional anymore.
Why not?
Right?
Why not? Right? Sport is as traditional as humankind.
Yeah, but let's say if there's let's say there's like a singing bakwa tournament. Is there one like
there have been. They used to have Lei-Tai tournaments, raised platform tournaments.
Really?
Yeah. So like different
and people would train to fight.
Yeah, people competed from different parts of China.
Okay.
In these Lei-Tai tournaments, sometimes these tournaments are very brutal. Apparently, like it will result in serious injury, result in death. But yeah, no, it was a sport, a very violent and dangerous sport. But it was a sport.
Is there like documents of this, like videos?
There's research, not so much videos because it was like the 1920s. I don't know how much video, there was video capabilities back then, but I don't know how much of it was taken there. But there are newspaper accounts, and the governments at the time did. Well, it was a very chaotic time in China at the time, but they did try to organize different tournaments for this very purpose. To be able to have people come out and try to display their art. And, also a chance for probably, I'm sure, for the Kung Fu practitioners to make a little money. Because a lot of these guys were bodyguards, gangsters, soldiers, caravan escorts, so street performers. So they had to make money with their manual labor.
Right.
So it's one of those things where when it comes to tradition, not that combat's the only part of tradition, the tradition, right? There's other parts of it too, like, how do you treat your teacher? How do you treat your disciples? How do you treat your brothers and sisters? For the most part, brothers back then, right? There is that part also, but one of the core parts to me, it is the efficacy of the system as a way to protect yourself.
Right. Okay. So, what about nowadays? Do you see like an important person actually, like, do you see any celebrities doing martial arts? Can you name a few celebrities?
Martial arts, yeah, but
no, Kung Fu. I'm sorry,
Robert Downey Jr.
Oh yeah, he does Wing Chun.
Yeah, he does Wing Chun. Yeah, so shout out to Iron Man. So
who else?
It was an actor. I forgot his name. He was in Smallville. He played the Martian Manhunter, but now I don't know his name. But he did Wing Chun too under Hawkins Chung.
Wait,
one of Bruce Lee's old students. He's an actor, Smallville, Black American actor.
Oh, I don't know.
Philip something, I think. No, I might be confusing him with another person's name, but he might be 60-something by now.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know how much of it. He's
damn.
I don't know.
Smallville that old?
Yeah, it was like 22 years ago when it came out.
Well, so how is Christy character?
I think she's in her 40s now.
Oh, damn. Well,
yeah. Well, at the time she was like 19.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, she's in her 40s now. I think she was born in the early 80s.
Wow.
But as far as other celebrities that do kung fu, I mean, I guess the highest profile one in the U.S. anyway is Robert Downey Jr.
Right.
Tony Leung actually did it. Tony Leung's in Shanqi. He actually did Wing Chun under Duncan Leung for a few years to prepare for one of his roles. But he seemed like from the videos I saw, he was training it legitimately. Like he was sparring, he was hitting the pads, doing the body tempering, like conditioning the forearm to take impact. I'm thinking who else. I mean, I guess a lot of the Hong Kong celebrities probably did at some
mostly a lot of the Asian stars. They did some form of Chinese martial arts.
I mean, especially if you go even farther back to the Shaw Brothers era.
Uh-huh.
I mean, a lot of those guys who were doing the kung fu movies, they had real classical training. Like.
But I'm talking about like the modern day celebrities, like
Yeah.
you know.
The closest to modern day are probably those three that I named.
Right.
Unless there's someone I'm missing. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe the audience could help us out with the comments.
Leave a comment.
Yeah, if you guys can
like
find
a
out
modern day celebrity that does kung fu.
Modern day celebrities.
I'm curious about that. Yeah.
Do it seriously. Yeah.
Because I know so many celebrities. They do like the BJJs and some form of FMA and especially karate and all these other. But kung fu is like rare to hear.
Yeah, and it's frequently misunderstood. A lot of and it took me a while to realize too, like a lot of the movements in the kung fu forms, they're takedown movements or they're grappling movements. So if you look at it as potential strikes, you might just look at it and say, "Oh, why am I doing this instead of just going kickboxing or even karate?" Right?
Right.
But a lot of the movements are actually grappling or clinching or takedown movements.
Could it be because it's hard?
Because kung fu is hard.
Yeah, because I did Wing Chun before, and it wasn't that hard for me, but I could tell like some of the people that attended, they said it's hard for them to do certain moves because kung fu, it's like very like you have to do it correctly in a certain way, So, but then like if you're talking about Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and stuff like that, I feel like it's easier to learn because
easier maybe intellectually, right? Easier psychologically.
Yeah.
There's not as much. I wouldn't say maybe it's not so much that's hard. Because, those other arts, they're pretty tough.
No, they're tough as in, but I think to follow...
Yeah, it's tedious.
It's
tedious.
You can comprehend it better. But then Kung Fu, it's like, sometimes you can't move a certain way and,
It can be tedious to learn. Like, even with Shingi, right? Like...
I remember
spent a lot of time holding our postures.
I was trying to learn some of the movements you do, and it was hard for me. Like
it's there's a lot of detail. There's a lot of detail, and you have to work on getting it correctly under high intensity.
Yeah.
So it does take a lot of it takes a lot of focus, and there's not as much. At least with that, there's not as much immediate reward.
Yeah.
It can take. In the grand scheme of things, it's not necessarily that long, but in the short term, it can take 6 months to a year, which can seem like a long time, in the modern day and age. So that part I get, but I will say too, there are kung fu systems, especially when blended with other systems, that do give you self-defense capabilities pretty quickly, but it hurts.
Like what?
Kung Tao Silat.
Kung Tao Silat. Yeah.
And a lot of the body tempering methods, they come from Chinese martial arts systems.
Yeah.
Honga. I know, like, I believe my friends who did Choli Foot, they also did a lot of body tempering.
Wait, hold on, man. So
Wing Chun too.
I mean, you guys can quote me that I'm wrong. I'm not 100% sure. This is what I heard from a fellow FMA. But he attended those like Silat and Kung Tao thing, right? And he quoted that Kung Tao and Silat is the same thing. It's just it's just the Malay Chinese call it Kung Tao, and then the Muslim the Malays call it Silat.
Well, I know Kung Tao in Chinese just means the way of the fist.
Yeah,
but I don't know what Silat means.
Yeah, so what he's trying to say is like they're the same thing.
Oh,
it's just named differently.
Yeah. Well, there's also...
I'm kind of confused. I don't...
That kind of speaks to the history, though. Like, a lot of those Chinese arts and a lot of those Southeast Asian arts, there's a lot more blending throughout the history
Yeah,
than
yeah, yeah.
people
Yeah.
might give it credit for. And there's also a lot of mixing of Chinese martial arts methods with Western boxing methods.
Right.
Like one of the founder of one of the systems that I practice, Yichuan, right? Wang Shanzai, like Wang Shanzai, he was very respectful of boxers and the way they train.
Right.
So he loved boxing, so he added a lot of boxing training into his approach. But also he had the body training methods from his classical Chinese martial arts upbringing, and he kind of fused them. So even now, like you'll see a lot of different approaches from what I understand by certain Yichuan guys. They love boxing and they love enhancing their power and their punches with the internal martial arts practices. That's my understanding, and I know that a lot of Wing Chun guys have also combined boxing with Wing Chun other systems, like when Bruce Lee was learning Wing Chun, Ip Man was his official teacher, but the day-to-day training was handled by Wang Shulong, King of the Talking Hands, and Wang had a background in boxing and Shotokan.
Mm-hmm.
He coached Bruce Lee in his one and only boxing match against one of his school classmates.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot more mixing and evolution throughout history, even the past 150 years.
Yeah.
Than I think a lot of people who might not look into that side of Kung Fu.
But why is there blending? You think, I mean, some people think blending is because one art is weak, right? Is that why they're blending? Why you think they're blending though?
People work close by.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine it's more natural than just that. It might yes, I'm sure some people say, "Oh, I need to learn how to wrestle. Let me go train with a wrestler."
Yeah, because I always hear two sides. People love the blending, and people don't. People think it being pure is better than blending. You know, it's I'm confused.
I don't know if there's a such thing as pure.
Yeah.
You know? Because there's always going to be some sort of hybrid somewhere.
Yeah, because evolution, bro. Like, when you grow, you're always going to change it a little bit.
Well,
no?
even the name of the art, Choilyfoot, right, is named after founders from two different systems that worked together to come up with a hybrid Kung Fu system.
Mm-hmm.
So they're very clearly shown that they're inspired by different martial arts systems.
Isn't that the same with Hongar? Like
Hongar, I think, just means the house of Hong, like the Hong family system.
It seems like it's a blend of two animals or something.
Yeah, they call it tiger crane, but
Yeah.
I don't know enough about Hongar to comment on that one.
Hmm.
But I know that Hong Foot, that's a blend of Hongar and Foot Ga. And there's a system, there's a school down in D.C. that trains in that system.
Really?
Master Tai Yim. And I know some folks who come from that system as well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of good Kung Fu folks apparently came out of that. So, but that's also apparently a blend from what I hear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so it's very common. It's more common than we might think.
Yeah.
And then, Shaolin itself, that was almost like a Kung Fu martial arts lab. Like so many people took refuge there throughout the centuries. And they would leave their martial arts knowledge there.
Yeah.
They would just keep training and develop extreme abilities.
Again, it became popular because of media. Shaolin.
Yeah, because of Jet Li.
Yeah.
Who was also in the one movie. So.
Well, it's not just Jet Li. There's also Gordon Lau, 36 Chamber, all the Shaw brother films.
Yeah. Shaolin versus Wudong, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have disgraced my family.
Yeah.
You have disrespected my family. You've disrespected the Shaolin Temple, right? Even Bruce Lee's character did it in Enter the Dragon.
It's so funny because the Wu-Tang Clan, right?
Yeah.
They love Shaw Brothers films.
Yeah.
Which is good. I respect their thing.
Mm-hmm.
But growing up, people get mixed up. I had to educate them. Like, like they call themselves the Wu-Tang Clan. And they're from Shaolin, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo,
completely
man,
different.
you can't be the Wudong and be from Shaolin. It doesn't mix well, bro. That's like oil and water.
Yeah.
They're like, really? I was like, yeah, man.
Yeah. That's like saying, Kung Fu karate,
Yeah, yeah. Wow. So, um, like nowadays, you said do you see a lot of kung fu practitioner now in like sports wise, like MMA?
Well, now there's more and more Sanda people in there.
Okay.
Like
What do you think of Sana? Do you believe it's kung fu?
I believe it can be,
Okay.
right? It's one of those things where, you know, excuse me.
Some people don't think it's kung fu. People
It
think
does
it's just.
have
I
it,
mean,
yeah.
it's like Chinese kickboxing.
It does have inspiration from non kung fu sources like boxing, taekwondo, um, maybe some judo too. But
So I mean,
there's
that's probably
there's
considered a
in there.
blend, right?
Yeah, there's Shrai in there too though for the takedowns and the throws. Excuse me. And yeah, no, it's definitely a blend.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a blend. But that's, I guess, like, for me, my mindset isn't very rigid when it comes to that. Because also, like, even during certain times in Chinese history in the 20th century, there were conscious attempts to gather all masters in one place and try to come up with different ways to try to spread kung fu to the masses. There's no way there wasn't blending when those environments were formed. So I'm not against the blending. I don't think we should just blend for the sake of blending.
Yeah.
Like, we have to figure out, okay, what do we want to combine?
What makes sense? Yes. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, what makes sense, and like what could be practically taught, right? Because if the goal is to spread the art, well, you got to teach people. You got to show people what's going on. You got to inspire them to train. You got to provide them an environment that they could train in.
Right.
But as far as
I've seen some blendings that doesn't make sense. Like, meaning, like, there's no way for them to showcase why it's done that way, right?
What's an example?
I cannot name the example.
Tell me after the show.
Yeah, because I will be banned for what I say. But all I know is, I think they just blend it just for the sake of it looking cool and not being effective.
If your goal is to look cool, if your goal is to look cool, like, modern WuShu, the goal is to put on a display, right?
Right.
And people like to dump on it a lot.
I mean, WuShu is just the forms.
Yeah, people like to make fun of it a lot. And also, I mean, I guess it's a bit of an easy target to make fun of because those guys, they don't fight, right? But
well, in their defense too, like, I mean, not defense, but more like I know a lot of WuShu people that claim they can fight too.
Y'all need to stop that. Please. For yourselves.
Yeah.
And for all of us.
I can understand if they have
love you
some
all,
kinda...
but please. But, on the other side of it, I got into Kung Fu through WuShu. Right? And I would say that a lot of people.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I would say a lot of people who got into Chinese martial arts, more often than not, might get into it through WuShu. Right?
Yeah, I like your videos, bro.
Yeah, no, thanks, man.
That round, what is that dragon kick, then transition to a split.
Yeah, that messed.
I don't know how you did that on concrete.
Yeah,
man.
no, that's yeah.
Can you still do that?
I have to stretch a lot. I have to stretch a lot and just be ready for some discomfort. But I mean, I can still do the kick. I don't know if I would do it landing into a split now.
Right.
And that pushes your body for flexibility. That pushes it to extremes. And there is a lot of benefit to that.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of benefit to that. And also, it's a potential segue into classical martial arts systems.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I don't believe it's necessarily harmful.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And plus it's just beautiful to watch.
Right.
So I think it definitely has its place, and I think it has done some positive for Chinese martial arts, right? Like it produced Jet Li, and Jet Li inspired a lot of us.
Right.
Right. And not just him, there's a lot of others too.
Right.
But it is easy to kind of talk down on. But if you do it and you want to have combat efficacy in Chinese martial arts, you can't just do that. Right? You have to go into other things. And my understanding is, from what I hear, is that before, when it was closer to the classical roots, people did spar and people did try to apply the application. So it wasn't just about the form and doing it in front of a crowd
Yeah.
and making it look
Yeah.
nice, you know.
Here's the thing, though. In my defense, I did take a little bit of Wing Chun. That's why I'm not saying I'm 100% a Wing Chun guy,
Mhm.
and I'm not saying that Wing Chun is bad. Okay, because people kind of take it extreme, be like, "Oh, you trying to talk shit about Wing Chun." I was like, "No, I love Wing Chun.
Mhm.
It's just that at the time when I took it, I didn't take it long enough,
Mhm.
and then when I did use it, I got fucked up, right?
Oh, yeah.
But when I got fucked up, I didn't say, "Oh it's the Wing Chun. It didn't work." I just knew I got fucked up because I didn't study it long enough, right?
That's the other part too. Yeah.
You know, so
And taking your lumps is a part of the process. Like you can do boxing, you can get
yeah,
beat up. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean boxing doesn't work.
yeah. So I believe that I should have dabbled more into it,
Mhm.
but it's just like like at the time when you're young, you kind of just wanna keep moving, keep trying to
Yeah.
find
I guess also like that is the other part of it is there's a lot of videos out there of kung fu people getting beat up,
yeah,
right? But what is the context behind it? Is it like a 78-year-old man who only practices it a couple times a week for health, or is it a 25-year-old who hits the bag with it, who does body tempering with it, who spars with it? It's very rarely the 25-year-old hypothetical guy.
Yeah, I seen Wing Chun fighters, right? Like if you're talking about like Wing Chun fighters that fight for sports, right?
Mhm.
And then there's also Wing Chun guys that like just practice it for the tradition and
Right.
for the health for it. But you could tell like the way the guy that's combat sports guy move in Wing Chun is very different.
Oh yeah.
Like it
The
looks
intent's very different,
yeah,
right?
the
Yeah.
intense is different, the power positioning is different,
Mhm.
movement is different,
Mhm.
Mhm. So that's how you could tell when somebody knows what they're doing,
Yeah.
But people don't see it. People see like, oh, yeah, it's just
And I was actually watching a YouTube video. A lot of those. Did you play fighting video games as a kid?
Of course, Virtual Fighter, Tekken, yeah.
Tekken I have played. Virtual Fighter I'm not sure about. I'd play some Mortal Kombat, play some Street Fighter, Dead or Alive, but apparently a lot of the movements from those video games are inspired by Baji.
Yeah.
Baji Chun.
Which technique?
That driving elbow movement
Oh
that a lot
yeah,
of those
yeah.
guys do.
Paul Phoenix does it, but
Paul Phoenix.
but Paul Phoenix, I think it comes from a that Kempo.
Kaji Kempo.
Yeah.
He's
He
like
comes from that, but I don't know why they would add that with him, right?
I mean, Kaji Kempo does have Chinese martial arts elements in it,
Oh,
so
okay,
I can see it having that in there.
And in Virtual Fighter, this guy named Akira or something like that, he does
Okay.
that movement too. And especially a lot of the kung fu fighters in it, they do a lot of that movement.
Yeah. It's I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like that movement's pretty powerful, just naturally, and it's fairly simple to do. You just gotta train it over and over again, so that'll hurt when you hit with it, right? But yeah, so that shows kind of like almost like a hidden influence of kung fu that's everywhere. We just don't really know it.
Is there many different positions with that technique? I see that they do the elbow. Is there like a different way of throwing the same? Is it always that technique? Because I see you could position yourself in different ways to throw it.
Maybe that I'm not sure. That you have to get into the intricacies of Baji. But from what I'm seeing, it seems like the principle is that they're driving the structure in behind the shot, and they're hitting you with a very hard part of the body.
Okay.
But I'm sure there's different ways to drive it. Different angles, different levels. I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure that's.
I'm not familiar with it, but is it similar to like a 1-inch punch in a way? Kind of like the same concept in a way.
I have heard some of them say that they're the king of the short explosive power. Pause. Right? So yeah, it's probably similar in principle as the 1-inch punch.
Okay.
The 1-inch punch is like, to me, is not so much a specific technique. It's just more like it's demonstrating an idea, right? The idea that you can generate that much force without having to wind up,
right,
or without needing a lot of space to operate.
Okay.
So yeah, if your body is trained effectively, it could be it could be done consistently.
Mm.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of brings me back to like what we were talking about earlier, like why kung fu seems to have the reputation that it has, right?
Mm-hmm.
The people who get the airtime, the people who get seen a lot, it seems like they're usually the people who can't actually do it, but claim that they do, claim that they can, right? So it's like, we were talking a little earlier too about different negative stereotyping,
Mm-hmm.
and that goes for different types of agents too, not just Chinese, right? But other arts in the public eye, they have been able to overwhelmingly prove the efficacy of their art, right? Like the Thais, you can't deny that the Thais can fight, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can't deny that Kyokushin karate guys can fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can say, all right, maybe they're not the most polished, even though I don't think that's really true. Or maybe they wouldn't do as well in UFC, even though I think they probably could with
Right.
modifications. But you can't deny the results of their art, right? So
Right.
it's one of those things where I think for the most part, the perception of Chinese martial is that they haven't overcome that reputation deficit, you know. And I think
So
that
I mean,
yeah,
would you say it'd be? I'll say it like would you say it's racist? Racism?
I think that's a role. I think that plays a factor.
Uh huh.
But it can be worked through, right? It's not something that has to be a complete hindrance,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because again, the Thais overcame it. I'm sure there's some negative stereotypes about Thai folks,
Yeah.
right? But their reputation, yeah, if someone tells you they do Muay Thai, they're gonna have a certain reaction, right? Compared to if someone says they do Kung Fu, they might have a more skeptical reaction from a lot of people,
Yeah, I
right?
just don't get that, man.
Yeah.
I don't.
But it's like as far as the way to kind of maybe change that reputation, if you're talking about changing on a larger scale, there needs to be more people who could sell the art. And when I say sell the art, I don't mean like a car salesman trying to convince someone of something that's not true, right? But sell the art in that you're demonstrating it effectively, while also maintaining a certain level of control, but also show that you could show effectively that you can turn it up to the higher intensities,
Mm.
while also being able to teach it potentially. So it's not easy. I
Yeah.
think that part's not easy, especially when you're trying to teach it to different types of people, people from different backgrounds, not even culturally, just different martial arts backgrounds, different movement backgrounds, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to demonstrate the importance of why you need to do forms, right? So, and I was able to be sold, quote unquote, on that idea by people who were able to do it, able to do the form well and show why the performance of the form is linked to your ability to fight.
Okay. Some people don't. Okay, so the question with me is like I do believe in forms, right? Like
Mm.
I told you this before.
Mm.
People just don't. I don't think people have patience for forms, man. They want I always
Yeah.
say this. They want quick results, fast.
Yeah.
But I just I just wish some practitioner would take their time and just learning their body mechanics, especially with forms. I feel like forms are body mechanic training.
Yeah.
You do those to understand why you move that way.
Well, in that sense, it doesn't have to be that different from boxing,
Yeah.
right? In principle, right? Because how many punches does boxing have? 5, maybe, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many different combinations and so many different ways you can throw each of those 5 punches, right? There's also modifications. Like, you're not going to throw a perfect textbook left hook if you're actually in a match, right? You
Yeah.
might modify a little bit depending on where the guy is, depending on maybe the guy's squatting low, maybe the guy's tall, right? So there needs to be that focus on the basics, but focus in the sense that, all right, if you focus on this, it's going to have practical outcomes for you. And here's
Right.
how. Here's
Right.
why. Here's how we get you to that point, right? And in that sense, what a lot of the old timers or a lot of the old traditionalists preach about honing the basics over and over, right? Broken record over and over. that's where I think they're correct. But you have to hone it with the right purpose,
Yeah.
right? You're honing it for whatever your goal is, right? And if your goal is combat, you need to understand, okay, what does it take to be effective in combat?
Right.
And then focus on that in your training.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say too, right? Like those methods are there in those old curriculums. It's just a question of kind of digging it out. And that could be a challenge. And I'm lucky to have good teachers. You know, that's a big part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's whenever I show someone my understanding of Chinese martial arts, I try to emulate what they were showing me as well. But that's where, you know, I guess you could call it being an ambassador for the art. You know, that's to me what the role entails, right? You have to be able to understand the art and perform the art well enough, right, to be able to show that it's effective. Don't need to be a championship level fighter,
Yeah.
right? You know, if someone's like 70 years old and maybe doesn't have the best back or whatever, right? Of course, he's not going to be able to knock out John Jones, right?
Right.
But he should show that he's effective with what he does,
Right.
right? And he's able to show why he's effective.
Okay.
Yeah. So
What is there any in particular kung fu you want to dabble in these days, or just sticking to what you know?
mostly sticking to what I know.
Mm-hmm.
There are other kung fu systems in the lineage I'm a part of that I need to get to.
Like what?
I want to do more of Northern Shaolin.
Okay.
I have done the art, but I need to become more extensive in that. More Bagua,
Okay.
more Tai Chi.
Mm-hmm.
This could actually become a fairly long list.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as far as an art that's maybe not as much a part of the lineage, I think it'd be fun to explore Baji with like a good Baji practitioner. It's got a cool history too. You know, it's got it's got the history of being bodyguards for different leaders throughout history, or a bodyguard art for different leaders throughout history, and very clearly very explosive and very hard hitting when practiced correctly. You know,
Right.
and actually there's some clips from back in like the 80s of people competing with it,
Mm-hmm.
or at least having some sort of like serious back and forth with it. Like they had
Yeah.
pads on, they had boxing, they were hitting each other, knocking each other over. So yeah, maybe Baji.
Yeah, my thing maybe back into Wing Chun.
Yeah.
I also want to learn Tonglong, praying mantis,
Okay, yeah.
but not the style you see that's this. It's
Right.
the southern mantis.
Southern mantis.
Southern
yeah.
mantis, it doesn't look like mantis, right?
Very different.
It's
separate
very,
lineages from what I
yeah,
understand.
yeah. I want to learn that because
Mm.
it just feel. From what I've seen in videos, southern mantis just looks strong. Like
There's a lot of body temperament.
yeah.
I've seen some training videos where one guy would just walk forward, the other guy would just practice hitting him in the torso.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want, but there's not that many people teach that over here.
I can't name anybody.
Yeah, I
Maybe
don't
there's
know.
someone in the Bay Area or something.
Maybe California. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, Wing Chun, I can see myself doing that too if there's an
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, and again, it depends on the practitioner. Like,
Right.
My friend Hui, his teacher, Sifu Austin, like, I will learn from him. I would definitely learn Wing Chun from him. Like,
Yeah.
like the art itself doesn't necessarily interest me overall as much as the person teaching it.
Right. Okay.
Right. And I guess that goes back to the idea of like the people made the art, right? Like if you have kung fu and it's a group of guys who maybe practice once or twice a week for an hour each time,
Mm-hmm.
they aren't very active outside of that. They maybe don't have the most athletic backgrounds, and they don't train at high intensity, right? That's still kung fu, but it wouldn't be the same as other guys who maybe train it 4 or 5 times a week, couple of hours each time. You know, they practice hitting the bag, they practice hitting the mukjang wooden dummy, they practice hitting each other. That's a very different kung fu. Still
Yeah.
kung fu,
Yeah.
right? But it's like if your goal is to train for self-defense or combat, it's like who would you rather be with, you know?
Right.
So that's also the thing too. Is like there's such a range because kung fu has both those types of people,
Of course.
and they're both doing kung fu,
Mm-hmm.
right? But yeah, if either of those sides get embarrassed potentially in a match, it's probably gonna be the one that trains once or twice a week, right? It's not gonna be the guys who train, 4 or 5 times and know how to hit, know how to get hit, know how to react, right? Because at the very least, even if those guys get into a fight with like an MMA fighter and they lose, they're not gonna lose in like an overwhelmingly embarrassing fashion, right? They'll hold their own at the very least.
Yeah.
And that's not going to make for like a viral video. It's like, oh yeah, no one's going to go, oh my God, let's watch this. It's a close fight and the guy lost. No one's,
Yeah.
that's not going to be something that they rush to for the
Yeah.
most part. It's like, unless, otherwise, but the other side's like, ha ha ha, this guy got knocked down 5 seconds. He claims he's been mastered. That's going to get more people to kind of look at it just to laugh at it.
A lot of the bare knuckle Irish boxing, that they do in Ireland.
Oh.
They have like certain families fight each other and
Oh,
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So there's a couple of there's a documentary, a couple of them that they see the potential value in Wing Chun. So they would like link up with certain sifus from like China or like and they would come to them and teach them the ways of Wing Chun so they can combine it in their boxing, And that was very interesting to see because I didn't think that a lot of those Irish boxers would appreciate that, but then I think they just want to combine it because they feel like boxing and Wing Chun would go hand in hand well,
I'll tell you this. I have a friend who trains in the Duncan Leon lineage of Wing Chun, and he trains. He would coach a lot of MMA guys. Sometimes he would get in there and spar with them, or he would do like hitting drills with them, and he would frequently bruise their arms up to where they didn't want to keep going with them.
Damn.
So he would frequently be able to hurt their arms. So it's like, and I've trained with him, and we would whenever we did the arm temperament, it feels like a bat, man. Like his conditioning is for real.
Damn.
Yeah, and he's he's also a Blintwalk brother as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So and he loves the similarities between those two arts as far as the range, as far as the some of the concepts.
So he blends Wing Chun with Balintuak.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. As far as his own personal practice, when he teaches, it's Blintwalk.
Yeah.
When he teaches Wing Chun, it's Wing Chun.
Okay.
But yeah, for his own personal practice, I think that's why he likes both.
Oh wow. Okay. Wow.
But it's like, but he's also one of those guys who can perform it.
Mm-hmm.
He does kung fu, right? But his Wing Chun is gonna be different than I bet a lot of people's would be, right?
Yeah. But the thing is, it's like I don't see that as a problem. But to some people, like, oh, okay, he's not traditional Wing Chun. And it's kind of like I hate hearing that shit, man.
Yeah.
Because just because somebody does kung fu and he knows it, why is it wrong on other people's eyes to see that?
There are guys like that, and
I know, we know. We will not name who it is, but there's certain people out there.
Yeah, they'll see something that maybe the terminology is a little bit off, or maybe the person who's shown the art, maybe they don't quite understand the origins of who taught what to who, or where technique came from.
But do you believe that if that person learns that certain kung fu, and they can use it in their knowledge in their way, do you believe it's successful? It's successful that what he's doing is real?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's not all the way successful. Like maybe that guy won't run a big school.
Yeah.
But he's able to film, and especially nowadays, social media, you can make something go viral quick.
Yeah.
He's able to get a bunch of eyeballs on him.
Right.
And he's able to show, all right, this guy does kung fu. This guy's able to hit like a truck, and this guy knows how he can potentially practice to get to that point, right? So it's like, if he's able to do that. And especially when kung fu has this kind of reputation that a lot of us are kind of working through, right? It's like, why not welcome that guy in with open arms?
Yeah, I don't get it, man. Because to me, it's just like a fingerprint, Like everybody has different fingerprints.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it too. And it's like, and it is true, like Bruce Lee would say, like everyone's gonna have their own expression of that art.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean it's not the art. It just means like, okay, This is your way of doing it. This
Yeah.
is my way of doing it. Who's wrong? Neither. Who's right? Both of us, right? And actually, you see that throughout history with kung fu too, right? Like you see, like with bagua, like yin style bagua is very different from Chun style, and Gao style bagua is different from both of those. Gao style is like a evolution of Chun
Yeah.
style. Um,
It's basically every instructor's signature.
yeah. And none of them are bullshit,
Yeah.
right? They're all legit.
That's-
Shingi too. There's a Hebei style,
Yeah,
Sanxi
yeah.
style, and there's other like different smaller styles that.
That's why I talked about the whole like. Remember I talked about like stunt guy
Mhm.
emulating certain kung fu guys, right?
Yeah.
You're doing Jeet Kune Do, but you're not doing Jeet Kune Do. You're doing Bruce Lee.
You're
Like,
right.
so I'm saying that's what I'm saying. Like,
Mhm.
even if you learn that art, like you're doing Tai Chi, right?
Mhm.
Of course, that Tai Chi is not gonna be the same as your master, your instructor.
Yeah.
This Tai Chi is really your Tai Chi,
Yeah. Well, or
know?
is my Tai Chi as he taught me,
Yes,
right? But
yeah,
his
yeah.
experience is going to be different
Yeah.
from mine,
Yeah.
right? And
So to some people, they say like, "Oh, your Tai Chi is wrong." Then and it's like, how do you see it that way? I don't get it.
to that I say a couple of things too. Like one is an example and one is a question, right? So the question is, by thinking that way, are we helping the art?
I don't think they think that way.
Oh, you don't mean they don't think you don't think they think of that?
No, they don't think like
Yeah.
that. They just want to shit
Yeah, I
on
think
you
it's
just because of I don't know if it's envy or jealousy or
Yeah.
that plays a lot more.
if that's the reason though, then their opinion doesn't matter,
Yeah.
right? So if it's not helping or hurting the art, and of course we want to help the arts,
Yeah.
then it's irrelevant, right? It's just it's just people talking, right? And the other part of it is an example. Ip Man. That guy to me is a genius, or was a genius. He passed, right?
Mhm.
Because he was able to take what he learned from Wing Chun, and he was able to produce this whole list of monsters, right?
Mhm.
Wang Shuleng, Bruce Lee, some others as well. I think it was William Chung,
Yeah.
William Chung.
Chung.
Chu Shongting, Augustine Fung, I believe. I think he's in Arizona now, I want to say. And Hawkins Chung.
Wait, I was confused. He has a son that's a stunt coordinator, right? He does tricking, right?
No, you're thinking about someone else.
Douglas? Is it Douglas Fong?
Douglas Wong.
Wong.
But I don't know if he's a Wing Chun guy. He might be,
He
but
is.
I don't know very much about him.
Oh, maybe he's not under the same Yip Men lineage then.
Yeah. But if he is, that will be another one. I
Yeah.
just don't know if he is. But that's like 5 or 6 people that I just named.
Yeah.
They're all very different, but they're all very good.
Yeah.
Right, so like for Ip Man, one guy to produce all those types of people, and I'm sure they're not the only ones. That's just the ones that I know about. I'm not a Wing Chun insider even.
Mm-hmm.
All very different, all very good, but you can't objectively say that, all right, this guy's Wing Chun's wrong, while this guy is right. Right, at least not in my opinion.
Yeah.
You can maybe say this guy is better than this guy for this and that reason.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're better off training with this guy because of your situation.
Yeah.
That versus this guy. But
well, I know for a fact that it's not just kung fu that's like that. I mean, there's other martial arts people tend to, shit on too, just because it's a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a common reaction,
Yeah.
And I kind of had to fight that within myself too. It's like I don't want to automatically think something's wrong just because it's not something I'm used to seeing.
Yeah. I would automatically think something's wrong with it if I feel like it's really, really wrong. But then, if you could tell that if he puts his own element in it, which is similar to it, then I'm like, okay, that's his take on it, right?
Yeah.
But then if it's so far fetched that it's not there anymore,
yeah,
and he calls it that art, then I'm like, nah, bro.
If it's not like biomechanically functional, then
Yeah.
then yeah.
Yeah.
Like if a guy's standing with like his knees collapsed, or if the guy's standing with like his shoulders hunched up like this, all right, yeah,
Right.
maybe you need to make some adjustments.
Yeah.
Right. But as long as the principle's there, and as long as they're adhering to the right principles, and as long as they're consistent in what they're training, and as long as they're biomechanically sound, as far as creativity, it's like is open for you. Like
Well, yeah.
and even within Shingi, we have the basics, which
Right.
some people might have heard of the 5 elements, right?
Yeah.
Even within those 5 elements, we have the animal shapes,
Okay.
which are combinations of the different elements, but it's more like a way to express it in a different way, right? And the animals tend to be more dynamic in their expression, so it does let you feel more options in training. And I will say it's helped my sparring.
Right.
It's definitely helped my sparring.
Okay.
But someone might see that and say, "Oh, that's not Shingi." It's like, well, yeah, it is. It's just a different part of Shingi that maybe you haven't gotten to.
It's
right?
the same thing with Wing Chun with
Yeah.
me. The only time when I found that it works is, like I said, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu rolling, right? When we do gi,
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing all the trappings, like
Yeah.
it's from Wing Chun,
Right.
So yeah, I think this is about it, man. Like again, we always talk about good shit. I love it.
Yeah, man.
Um,
No, this is this system of martial arts is pretty near and dear to me also, like
Yeah.
this and blend walk and so yeah, it does. I definitely don't like the fact that it has a reputation that it does.
yeah,
But I love practicing it, I love training it.
yeah,
I love showing folks why those why I think it's beneficial.
right,
So yeah, it's hopefully there's more of a chance for us to really kind of show it in a positive way.
right. I
you know?
agree.
Yeah,
I
so
agree.
like what you guys did with Keith, no, that's a great thing. That's a great
Yeah.
way to promote Shingi, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, it went out there, so
Yeah, and it helps the fact that he's pretty good.
yeah, yeah.
It's like you got to be.
He backed it up.
Yeah,
Yep.
you got to be able to back it up. You
Yep.
got to be able to actually, put the money where the mouth money where the mouth is. Is that how you say it?
I guess.
I guess.
Yeah.
You gotta be able to back up what you're saying.
Yeah.
You guys know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
So if you folks out there have any more topics you want us to talk about, let us know.
Mhm.
Leave some comments. You want to say anything before we go?
Yeah, no, and as you guys are talking, this is a big topic, right? We're far from the first ones to talk
Yeah.
about this. So
Yeah.
let me know what you guys think of kung fu, like if you guys have experience with different forms and everything else, But other than that, thank you guys for supporting us and like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff,
Right.
and let us know what you think.
Right.
Let us know what you want us to talk about too.
Yeah. All right, guys.
All right,
Peace out.
later on.